Good evening, everyone. If everyone will please take a seat. My name is Mary Williams, and I would like to welcome to the Project Search 2020 recognition. Project Search is a program that helps students transition from school to workforce. Each intern has worked very hard this year and has gained many skills. We would like to personally thank all the community leaders who have supported our program. We would also like to thank our superintendents, special education directors, and consultants. We would also like to thank our liaison, instructor, skills trainer, and each mentor, as well as the families of each intern. Thank you for your support. I would like to introduce tonight's guest speaker, Justin Baker. Justin is a logistics activity coordinator with Dow and has been a mentor. He has facilitated projects for the interns to build upon skills and also helped with mock interviews. Please welcome Justin.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm grateful we were able to gather together this year. I missed seeing my interns graduate last year. That was a disappointment, so I'm glad we were able to do it. My name is Justin Baker. I'm a logistics activity coordinator at the Dow Chemical Company in Elizabethtown, of course. Previous to this role, though, I spent 16 years as a contractor at Dow in Plaquemine, Louisiana. So moved here for this opportunity. It was a humbling experience when I was asked to speak here tonight on behalf of the interns and the Project Search, as I've gained great respect for this program over the last 2 years. I had the opportunity to mentor 3 amazing interns last year, Heather, Nathan, and Brady. Each one of them brought different personalities and skill sets to Dow, and I enjoyed tailoring specific job tasks to not only bring out the best in their natural strengths and abilities, but also to challenge them in their weaker areas. I know this year was an amazing group as well, and I think Dow keeps learning more and more about how valuable these interns are for our site. Unfortunately, this year our department was unable to host interns, so I was excited when I was asked to assist in other ways. Mary mentioned it. I was able to conduct a few mock interviews with some of the interns and then provide feedback to prepare them for the upcoming job interviews. I hear those interviews went well. 3 of the 5 interns currently are employed, and the other 2 will pursue specific job roles after internship based on their experiences in the program and learning their strengths and preferences. They're going to go exactly for what they found that they enjoyed by being at Dow, so that's wonderful. By partnering with Dow, the interns are getting a firsthand look at a real work environment. They are able to interact with coworkers, work in a team environment, and speak with leadership on a daily basis. They're fully integrated into their teams like they are an employee of Dow. They are one of us. The benefits of this program definitely are not one-sided. The Dow employees are gaining the opportunity to mentor, which has been honestly one of the most important things I've done for Dow. Make no mistake, this program is teaching us, the Dow employees, as well as the interns. Being a part of this program will leave you changed for the better, that is for sure. I'm just going to read through a list of accomplishments the group has completed this year. Just a few bullet points. Taking inventory for the engineering department, boxing thousands of retention files. The site's very grateful for all the hard work displayed here because I hate filing and try to avoid it at all costs. So thank you. Created filing systems, which I'm also terrible at. Sorted and inspected cartridges. And then the big one, they packaged over 19,000 cartridges I heard they were acknowledged for their efforts and received an award for this outstanding accomplishment. I mean, this was huge for the site. We don't have enough resources to do all of these activities, and they stepped up and just made it happen. That was awesome. Speaking of awards, there was an award that was given out each year from my previous company to employees who demonstrate superior qualities of dedication, hard work, leadership, and a concern for others. I found symmetry between this award and then what I read through the interns' testimonies about their experiences at Dow. So I'm just going to share a few key words that they wrote themselves about what they have learned. Hard work, teamwork, leadership, caring for others, pride in their work, mentoring other interns, gaining real-world work experience, skill building, the importance of being on time, I found that good that they learned that. Respecting others. The list proves they have learned many of the core values and characteristics that companies look for in their workforce. And I think it was already ingrained in them, and then we just provide an outlet to show them, give them a purpose. I will close by providing some advice to the interns if I can. Dow employees, we also have an internal program where we have the opportunity to mentor other Dow employees, not just interns. So I would advise the interns to seek out a mentor in their jobs that they're in the future. If they currently have one or if they obtain a job in the future, mentors are vital to growth, confidence, and skill building. It can be difficult to speak up about an issue if you're coming into a new job. And if you have a good mentor there with you, it'll give you confidence and permission to speak up when you see inefficiencies, incorrect steps in a job aid or procedure, safety issues. It's just great to have that encouragement. They can also empower you to speak up when you see someone doing a task that's unsafe, which is one of the most important thing. I would not be where I am today without the guidance of my mentor prior to taking this role in Kentucky. So I had a mentor for 10 years, and he really just molded me into being a better employee for the company. Sorry, I lost my place. If you are currently working for a company and discover a strong interest and aptitude in another specific job role, learn as much as you can about that role and then what steps you need to take to get there. Ask your leader, what do I need to do to have the opportunity to be considered for that job in the future? And speaking to the interns here, don't expect that leadership to know what you're interested in. You need to respectfully tell them, and that way you can open their eyes, let them see, hey, I'm interested. Let me know, is there anything I can do to move into that role? What can I do for you? So I'd also say that just because you're not chosen for a role that you think you want at the time does not necessarily mean there's not something better out there for you. I have been overlooked for certain roles only to find a much better fit for me later on. It's actually been a blessing. So in closing, I'm going to steal a quote in which I found online, which I do not know the origin, but you might not be able to control your circumstances, but you can control your attitude, approach, and response to those circumstances. And I saw many of those instances by these interns making good situations from everything that they have done in Dow. So thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to speak about them. Have a good night.
Next, I would like to introduce Sean Clenning, last year's site leader for the person responsible for starting this program.
Thank you, Mary. I'll have to put these on. Sorry, as I've got older, it's got worse. And I have to wear these damn things. And I'll look over the top and pretend to look learned. This is a fairly emotional opportunity for me to stand up and speak. It's probably one of the best things I've done in 30 years at Dow, is to become involved with Project Search. So if I start crying, Kim, bring a tissue. Kleenex, okay? It's taken us a long time to get to where we are today. We started back in March of 2018. I went to a business meeting in Midland in Michigan, which is where our head office is. And inclusion moments or events are always included in every one of these big team meetings. And we met one of the most amazing people that I've met in Dow so far, a lady called Rhonda Thomas. She started Project Search in Dow, and she came and presented this to myself and my peer group of site leaders from around the world. And I walked out of that meeting and said, yep, we're going to do this in Kentucky somehow. So I got some contact names and numbers, and we found a lady up in Cincinnati, Susie Rutkowski, who is the founding director of Project Search. And we brought her down, and she connected me with a few people and told me what we needed to do. And then we started chatting to the 2 school districts, and I met some wonderful people, Rhonda, Tracy, and I don't see Carol here this evening. But we started talking about this, and Rhonda and Tracy and Carol were pretty clear. You guys had better get your something straight when you want to talk to Terry and to John, because they're the ones who are going to say yes or no. So we kind of got all of our stuff together and got it straight. We put together this amazing presentation. We all thought it was a big sales job. It was together with Susie, Rhonda T, Rhonda from school district, Tracy, Carol, and my local team at the time led by amazing Jennifer, and a few others. We had this wonderful slide deck, and we practiced, and we went through it so many times, and we got told, you've got 30 minutes. The 2 superintendents are going to come in. They're high-powered people. They're busy. Don't waste it. Do the presentation. So I stood up and gave the presentation. And we all wondered, I wonder if they're going to say they're interested and we're going to support this project or not. Well, we kind of got through to about, I think, the second or third last slide, and Terry Morgan turned around to John, and she said something to John Ballard at the time, and they both turned and said, we're in, don't worry. I was like, yay, wonderful. And then Terry said something which was something really challenging, humbling, and made me wake up and think, yeah, we better do this right. She said, if Dow's involved, it's fine, because everything they touch in this district turns to gold. And it's like, oh my God, how are we going to meet this thing? And then they both looked at each other, looked at us again, and said, right, we're starting in July, right? I said, oh my God, how are we going to do that? Bear in mind, this was November 29th of 2018, and we're going to have December off and some of January, and then suddenly put this thing together to start at the beginning of the school year in 2020. We didn't think we could do it. Jennifer, you drove this project harder than anybody could have, and it's through no small measure of you that we are where we are today. I would like to do one thing before I continue, is please let's offer, I know John has since retired from E-Town Independent Schools, but I would like to offer a round of applause and appreciation for both John and Terry for showing the vision and committing to our community. So this evening is really not so much about what we did in the past, but a little bit of history is always good. It grounds us for the future. This is about the young adults whom we're celebrating tonight for both the previous school year and the current school year. And as Justin had said, they've made a huge impact to our site, probably more to us as employees and mentors than we probably gave back to the interns. But having said that, it has been a huge challenge for the first year's interns with COVID coming around, and they left us, I think, mid-March of 2020 before the school year ended, and we'd gone through and we didn't have the opportunity to hold a graduation. So that's why we're here this year. Hopefully with the economy picking up and regulations around COVID easing, we will be in a better position to have our interns from last year get out into the workforce and earn the jobs rightfully that they deserve and that they've earned to be part of. They have a set of skills that I think every one of us in this room recognize and understand. And in a conversation with one of the family members of one of our previous interns, I had to apologize for using the word normal and non-normal, and I got corrected and said there's typical and atypical. Right, okay, fine. Everybody's normal, not everybody's typical, right? So that's the one learning we all have to recognize is we're all normal folks, everybody. We just have some differences and a few traits that may not be typical or what typical people may call typical. So we have to see beyond what we can see with our eyes and actually start recognizing and listening to what people say to us and how they behave, and we need to alter our behavior accordingly. So it's been a privilege to work closely with the first year's interns this evening, and I've been told to use the left and right button, so let's see what happens. Nathan was an incredibly shy young gentleman when he first came to us, and you would greet him in the corridor, and he would look down, and he'd just walk past and not say a word to us. By the time he left us, Nathan was cracking jokes together with Jeffrey. Nathan had the coolest helmet out of everybody on site. Sorry for the rest of you guys who had other helmets. And Nathan got to the point where he'd speak to everybody. He was the first intern from last year's group who got a job. He worked at E-Town Ice for a while, and I believe he's now working up at Fort Knox on the janitorial staff. So really shout out to Nathan. He's a really fine young man. Matt Bird, right, Matt. Also known to those in the color lab, so I see Laura Zilla and Emily Zilla here tonight. Matt is known as Matt Zilla. Matt has an amazing memory. You only have to tell him something once, and it's in there, it's filed away, he can recall it. It's almost like dealing with a computer. You put a search string in, and Matt will tell you what the answer is. Work ethic and quality of his work were above reproach, and the two ladies in the lab told me he was one of their sweetest, favoriteest guys who worked with him in the lab, and they loved working with him. This past year, he's been working with Communicare, honing his skills, both life skills and general social skills, to set himself up for when the job market opens up and is a little bit more receptive. So, Matt, we wish you everything of success in the past. So please come up, sir. Hannah was also described by just about everybody who met her as the sweetest person on the plant and the one who gave the best hugs. In the beginning, we challenged Hannah a lot to not give up, to stay the course. And it's over the course of the year, Hannah developed an amazing sense of stamina, tenacity, and resilience while she was with us. And things that may have upset her in the beginning of the year, she had mastered by the end of the year. So that is a fantastic result for us. And the work that Hannah did was also phenomenal. Since leaving us, she has continued with her horse riding lessons. I believe she now drives the golf cart with Ron going around the golf course, and is on the side-by-side ATV. And I don't think, Hannah, you would have, the last time I saw you on the golf course, I don't think you wanted to drive us too far on the golf cart. So well done, congratulations. She volunteers twice a week at a local elementary school, and I think that is a phenomenal message that everybody can give back to the community, and I think that's fantastic. And really loves hanging out with her young nephew. So Hannah, please come up and receive your award. Jaden joined us as probably one of the most artistic folks we've had on the plant for a long time. Jaden also likes fashion and color and things like that. And every time I met Jaden in the corridor, she was very adamant that our safety shoe policy was all wrong. And that surely they could get safety shoes with heels, and there was no reason why everybody needed to wear safety shoes. So while we didn't rewrite our safety policy, we really enjoyed her outgoing, bubbly personality and the artistic flair she brought into the plant. I remember one morning having a very serious conversation with one of the guys. We were having a lot of trouble with some salespeople and supply chain people asking us to do almost the impossible, and Steve and I were both saying something, and she walked past his office and put her head in and pointed her finger at us, and she said, "Just tell them to do it." And the ice was broken, and we were done, right? That was it, right? All seriousness was gone. She had no idea what we were talking about, but that was Jaden. I mean, fantastic, and I'm really sorry not to see Jaden here this evening. Jeffrey spent most of his year out in the maintenance shop. You spent a year in the shop where you used your mechanical skills, aptitude, and experience to help Tim Sherrod rebuild pumps. We gave you some admin work to do, which I think you did admirably as well. Feedback from everybody in the shop was you're an incredibly quick learner. When it came to a mechanical thing, you only had to be shown once, maybe sometimes twice, but you picked up skills very, very fast. And most of the guys that I've spoken to in the shop came back and said, this young man has huge potential. And if we had openings at the time, they were going to fight very hard to get you into the shop. And I know you did apply for an operator role on site as well. So you took that upon yourself. And I'm sorry that Marlon isn't here either, because Marlon spent a lot of time and I know enjoyed working with you as well. So please come up and receive your award. Heather isn't with us this evening as well. Heather was a very outspoken, and I said extrovert personality, which is quite difficult because most people in chemical plants or technical fields are usually introverts. So when you get put together with an extrovert, it's usually quite challenging for us introverts to cope with the effusiveness. Heather was always clear to tell us what was going on, whether it was in her life, our lives, or something else she'd seen, which was really neat because it pulled us all out of our boxes and made us all feel a little bit uncomfortable, which is not the worst thing in the world. And she would always remind us to tell her to get back on task because she was easily distracted. By the end of the year, Heather was less easily distracted and had learned to focus. And she worked a lot with Justin and was actually doing a lot of really value-added work for us in our computer systems to get shipments ready to ship, taking workload off some of our full-time employees and some of our contractors. So Heather really did a great job in helping and assisting, and I truly hope that she's being able to use some of those skills she got from us. And Brady Thompson, Brady I think will definitely be remembered by, especially the folks in the lab, for his amazing timekeeping sense. When it was noon, it was lunchtime, right? It did not matter where we were in the testing, and within about 3 months, Brady had come to accept that sometimes some of the lab work and the test had to be completed before lunch. But what it did for us is we all learned what hangry meant, because when we were late, Brady was hangry. Brady also got everybody back at work, back to their workstations on time. We'd sit in the break room and his alarm would go off, and he'd stand up and say, right, it's time to go to work. And everybody would look at him like he was crazy and then go back to work. So if ever you need somebody to do timekeeping, Brady's your man. He was also the champion of scanning. We had thousands of batch cards that needed to be scanned, and as Justin said, filing is not everybody's favorite job. Scanning batch cards is even less favorite than filing. He scanned more batch cards and run sheets than anybody else did out of our interns. And I would say that the quality of what he did was phenomenal. We had some issues with some of our other interns and had to rework a lot of stuff. With Brady, that never happened. It would also be fair to say Brady hated the job, right, like the rest of us do. However, he stuck to the task and he got the task completed, and he realized after a while complaining about it wasn't really going to help until the job was done. So there were some very important life skills that went with that as well. I'd say as he progressed through the year as well, became much more outspoken, much more comfortable talking to us, and is by now, I'd say, ready to get out into the wider world and go and show everybody else what his skills are, because Brady's a very smart young man. So Brady, please come up and accept your award. So before I hand back to our mistress of ceremony this evening, Mary, I need to acknowledge a few groups who really made this successful. So my most heartfelt thanks to Jennifer and to Kim, who dealt with, and Nancy as well, dealt with the day-to-day issues of interns who were not comfortable with what we were asking them to do, didn't know what they were doing, didn't really want to go to the workplace straight away, wanted to stop and chat. Something didn't happen right. They were coming back down to chat to somebody to give them help. The amount of patience that these three ladies showed was immense. So ladies, thank you so much for helping and supporting. We had tears on both sides. Sometimes it was just out of frustration. Sometimes it was out of laughter and joy. And there was every emotion in between, as you can imagine. To all of the mentors who worked with students, and Justin is here, and I can see there are some other mentors in the audience, thank you very much, because without you, this project and this process would never work. For those who aren't here, our PPOs, the guys who work in the security office, who had to drive the folks up and down from the training room where their classroom is to the plant every day, twice a day. I'm sure some days they really didn't feel like driving them up or down. And in the beginning, it's really interesting trying to get everybody in their seat. So thank you to them. Perhaps, I think most importantly, is to say thank you very much to the family members and the parents for entrusting your sons and your daughters to us in a chemical plant, because I remember day one when we first met, the first year's group was like, I don't want my child working with chemicals. It's like, no, they're not going to work with chemicals, I promise you. So to you guys, thank you so much. Without your support and investment in your sons and daughters, we would never do this. So with that, I'd like to close and hand back to Mary. And I know you're going to call somebody else up next, Mary. Thank you, everybody.
I would like to thank Nick Powell, a Dow site leader, for making this graduation possible. Please welcome Nick Powell to speak about the program.
Yeah, so I'm Nick Powell. I'm the site leader. So I've been at the Elizabethtown site since July of 2020. And for those of you that are listening to this nasally speech here, again, I'm from Michigan, right? And so again, not from the Elizabethtown area, but you know, we've my family and I, so I've got 4 children, and they go to the Hardin County schools, also the Hardin County, and so again, you know, when I was getting ready to kind of write my speech and think about what we're doing here, you know, there's a lot of pride and accomplishment when you start thinking about what your children have done, right? And so, you know, everybody in this room, I didn't realize it was going to be this many people. I mean, it actually shocked me when I came in here. You know, this is going to be a really exciting time. So I'll probably lighten it up a little bit. If you know me, I spend a lot more time joking about things. And so, you know, I'm glad the music went off. Whoever turned the music off? Who did that? Because I was not going to be able to concentrate and tell my speech at the same time. So, you know, let's maybe lighten it up and, you know, celebrate the students here. So I'll give a little bit more background, though, for those of you that don't know Project Search. So Sean talked about it at the Elizabethtown site, but maybe if you step back and you think about this, Dow started this journey back in 2016, and so it started in the Midland site, and that's where I was at when this started. So I was one of the founding leaders, if you call it that, right, that paved the way. And so we went through a lot of the same tough lessons, right, that Elizabethtown did last year. And when I say tough lessons, it's really kind of learning like a symbiotic relationship, right? Like how do we learn to bring the interns in, right, and challenge them appropriately, right? And so you know, through that in 2016, that was kind of the start at Dow. And now we're at 5 different states, right, and in 2 countries, right? So if you look at it globally, 85% or 90%, I can't remember now, of the students that entered the program have graduated, right? And so that's a pretty good success rate when you think a lot about the challenges that we've got. And as I step back and I think about, you know, from even last year to this year, you know, I use a lot of analogies, and for those of you that, again, I look back at my staff back there, I always butcher it, right? I'm like the Yogi Bear of, I can never get them right. But it's really around, I think about it as like building a house, right? And what I mean by that is this Project Search internship that we've started, you know, so last year's group, they laid the foundation, right? So that was the foundation. Now we start building kind of the concrete blocks, right? Or the, you know, I guess in Kentucky, maybe they do. I think you guys have concrete blocks down here. And then next year, right, we're going to start seeing the framework of the house, right? And what that means is, you know, it's just like planting a garden, right? So for those first couple of years or first few months, you really don't see the fruits of the labor, right? And so these 2 groups of students, right, you won't see what it's going to be like 5 years from now, 6 years from now. But just me being here for 9 months, I can already see like a totally different group, you know, that I'm assuming that started last year to this year. And so yeah, I've got a lot of good, funny examples about that. But again, when I, you know, not just me personally, but in polling and kind of talking to our staff, right, in our site, you know, there's this paradigm, right, of this thought process, however you want to frame it, around, you know, really challenging students and then challenging yourself, right? And so this is, again, I've been doing this since 2016 in different varieties. And every year, kind of the assumptions of what we think our students or our interns can do is like way lower than what they accomplish every year. And I mean, I'm looking around at all the people that work at site every year, right? And this year was no exception to that. And it's kind of funny. This morning I was just having a conversation with one of our day staff, right? And we were talking about some project. And I said, hey, I goes, for next year's group, that'd be a great project. He goes, yeah, that would be. Didn't even miss a beat. But if we would have had that conversation 9 months ago, 12 months ago, there would have been a fight. I am not kidding you. There would have been a long argument about like, well, maybe not quite the skill set. And now it's really second nature. And so you know, that goes goes without saying. You know, it's kind of a natural progression where it is you build those skills. It's kind of an evolution, but that evolution, right, and that progression doesn't happen without great people. So I'm going to take by the way, this is the best thing about going third, is you can kind of like change your speech a little bit about what everyone's done, got to bob and weave, but you see a pretty repetitive theme between Justin, Sean, and myself, right? Is that we get so much value out of it, right? And so when I step back and I think about the school system, right? When I think about our teachers, right? When I think about our life coaches, when I think about kind of the staff, the mentors, the parents, the guardians, right? I mean, the bus drivers, right? So, Sean talked about getting them from the from our training trailer to the site, but they have to get from the school, right, to our site. It really takes a community, right? So, I mean, I'd like to just stop. I know we already did an applause, but we're going to do another one, right? And just thank everybody, right? So, can we just? Primarily because I was going to forget to thank somebody. It goes without saying. So I'm going to skip this slide because Justin already stole it. So way to go, Justin. So as I was reflecting on this, I could ramble on and on and on and on, right? But we're getting hungry. We are. But there was one thing that, as I was thinking about each of the interns in this school year, and listening to, Sean and Justin talk about last year's interns, right? There's some resounding, what I would call skills or values, right, that are with every one of them. And so I'm going to there's 5 of them that jumped out to me. So when I think about our interns, right, and all parents and guardians in the school system and our mentors, everybody should be proud, right? Because I think about dependable, hardworking, energetic, committed, and eager to learning. And you know something? If every one of our employees at the site in Elizabethtown had those values and those traits, what a great site it would be. And it is a great site, I would say, right? But I mean, those are really things that, again, you can't teach, right? So those are ingrained, they're, again, at the home life, right? And brought up. And so, it's just, I just wish all of our employees had that. So, okay, so we'll start with Carter. So again, I don't have as many stories as Sean, but I'm glad to see you tonight, Carter. So for those of you that don't know, Carter learned a life lesson about mopeds, speed, and physics. So it's great to see him again. He did again many rotations, right? And so you'll see a resounding theme of working through many of our work groups and learning a lot of life lessons. So we got that. So if you can come on up, Carter. Thank you. Okay, and Mark. So Mark was actually our first intern this year that landed a full-time job. And again, so I think it was a Mark Feed Store. Is that? Yeah, it made it very easy for me to remember. But I will say this, right? So without going into too much detail, that was another logistical challenge for us, right? As to how do we accommodate somebody being very successful with that. And again, this team, right, figured out all the logistics and made it work, right, so that he can continue the internship, graduate, but again continue employment. So Mark, if you come on up. Thank you. Okay, Albert. So again, Albert, all the same characteristics that we talked about, right? Those really hard or those really great traits that we talked about, and again, Albert's one that when I was talking to the staff, right? We're seeking to retain Albert's employment services, right? As a role, our first one. That's graduating the program, because it's similar to Sean talking about the school systems putting their money where their mouth is, right? I think that Dow should do that too, right? Is that, again, we train, we work with them, and so again, Albert should be joining us in June-ish, yeah, that's part of working in a big company, right? Is that nothing's exactly lined out. So, so anyway, we're really glad to have Albert on, and great school year. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I was gonna walk away.
Okay, Aiden. Okay, so again, I hear party planning is what I hear. Is that? So again, when it comes to organization, again, management, energetic, again, Aiden was the life of the party, right? With not only challenging everybody to we're going to celebrate, right? But then following up with making sure. So, I mean, just great attitude, and man, it was a great year to have you. Okay, Mary. So again, Mary's somebody that, again, is our intern, and again, I think this could sum it up among many of our other interns. But again, when I think about when I met all the interns on August 28th and how they've transformed, right, and bringing out their personalities, there's probably nobody that exemplifies that more than Mary, where again, she was very, very quiet, right, early on. And as the year went on, and even, again, I think it was last week or the week before, she would be the one that would be saying hi to me before I would say good morning to her, right, or hello to her. And so again, that just, stood out to me as an example of, again, somebody that's budding with self-confidence, right, and kind of has those skills, right, and those personality traits. And again, I'm glad that we could bring that out. So, Mary, if you'd come on up. Again, when I step back, and again, this is really about celebrating all the interns and everything they've accomplished, right? And so, I mean, you can just see, hopefully you guys can, the change, right, and the growth in our interns. And again, if you think that you see that in the interns, you should see the mentors and the work groups and how different they are after getting exposure to the students. I mean, it is probably tenfold. And when I step back and I think about Project Search and the program and what success means, that's what success means. That's bringing community together, right? Developing skills, really looking out for each other, and again, kind of advancing into a better situation. So, thank you.
I would like to ask Hannah Krim to come forward and say a few words.
Good, everyone. Thank you for coming for tonight. We want to say thank you to Jennifer Bowling. She is awesome leader. Perfect Search is awesome. Helped us learn how to work at a job. Loved working at Dell. Everyone's so nice and helped us learn new things. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Just wanted to take a minute to say, kind of reiterate what everybody else has talked about, that it has truly made a positive impact on everyone at Dow, and definitely me personally. I'm honored to have worked with the interns, worked alongside them, and been a part of this program. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and just know that you always will hold a special place in our heart at Dow. Thank you.
I would like to thank each of you for coming to the graduation.